Hello, and congratulations. You've obtained the lucrative job of Scout for the Class 9-6 spacecraft Icarus. Okay, let's get scrapping.
Remember when shooters used health packs and armor pickups? When the only narrative you needed in your FPS amounted to shoot bad guys? I could easily slap on an only 90s kids remember to those sentiments, and you could share them on Facebook for some cheap likes. But behind every cry of nostalgia, there's a developer figuring out a way to capitalize. We've already seen Coca-Cola bring back Surge, Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff on tour again, and endless reboots of classic films. But where are we left standing when it comes to gaming? And more specifically, the feel of those FPS juggernauts of yesteryear. Pixel Titans and Devolver Digital's latest effort with the Kickstarter-backed Strafe sets out to show that the classic aesthetics of all-time greats such as Quake and Doom weren't left to the same fate of so many Tamagotchi pets. Strafe is a roguelike nostalgia trip for fans of shooters in the 90s. The game was marketed as the best looking game of 1996, and honestly, that may be the most apt description. It's super low res and has chunky polygons, but it was very much intentional for the aesthetic direction and the vibe Strafe was trying to sell. On this throwback level, the game works as intended. The graphics take you back to the 90s, the corny FMV gets you nostalgic, and the hidden secrets and references to other classic shooters get your nerd synapses fired up. This is where Strafe finds its success. However, a different story unfolds as you actually sit down to play Strafe. You will quickly realize within a few attempts that the pull of nostalgia weakens, and Strafe becomes a tale of two tones. Between the marketing hype videos, the cheesy tutorial, and the guitar shredding music, the developers want you to believe that Strafe is an all-out run-and-gun gore fest. But that's not the case at all. Unless you are very skilled and very lucky with a procedural generation, you will find that you won't be able to get past the first level with that approach. I found most of my best runs in the game came from a slow, methodical approach that saw me drawing enemy attention and funneling them into a hallway to pick them off efficiently, while preserving the frail protagonist's meager amounts of health and tissue paper armor. This was because health and armor pickups were very rare. The roguelike trappings of Strafe work against the experience in a pretty significant way. While the basic mechanics of running, jumping, and shooting are all serviceable, the enemies and level design can feel way too random and cheap from play to play. Some runs you'll get a couple of health packs, easy rooms to funnel enemies, and a solid gun upgrade. Other times you'll get a gun upgrade that actually makes your gun worse, no health at all, and enemies will swarm you from all sides. I walked away from every death in the game without feeling any kind of progression that roguelikes traditionally instill upon a fail state. For example, in a game like Don't Starve, I would feel that I knew how to approach enemies and how to make better use of my items after my deaths. In Strafe, it would just feel like I had a bad roll of the dice and had to wish for better luck next time. For a game with 4 stages that contain 3 levels each, it's asking a lot to get 12 good dice rolls in a row. In what seemed to be an attempt to negate the dice roll-y luck of the draw feeling of Strafe's levels, there are usually machines in each level that offer armor packs for in-game scrap pickups. The negative to this is that the armor pickups are very small for the amount of scrap you trade in for them. For example, I would accumulate 7,500 pieces of scrap in about 2 levels, and a 50% armor pickup costs 6,000 scrap. Now keep in mind that the armor in this game falls away very quickly with minimal hits, so it becomes a question of why the player would bother anyway. There desperately needs to be a better trade-off for in-game currency and in-game items, because as it stands now, Strafe feels like it is making a tough game much harder by putting a chokehold on health and armor. Strafe also contains a secondary mode called Murder Zone, which operates as a standard horde mode. You pick a weapon and fight through rooms of enemies, while a counter keeps track of the gallons of blood spilled. Upon your death, your blood counter pulls up and unlocks new perks to use in future runs of Murder Zone, such as the ability to carry a second gun. While this would be a decent mode, it still doesn't quite have that run-and-gun feel of games that Strafe pulls inspiration from, instead opting to keep the gameplay that is in the main game, which rewards a slow, methodical approach. So you don't feel like a Doom Guy-esque badass, but more like a scared-to-death person running in circles trying to pick off a horde of enemies hot on your tail. Strafe provides a dose of nostalgia that can taste quite sweet in short bursts, but too much Strafe in one sitting can easily flip that nostalgia to nausea. The game pulls heavily from old classics and provides an aesthetic that would seem right at home with them, but uses modern gameplay design to change the core experience in a wholly unsatisfying way. If you're a fan of the look of 90s shooters, while also wishing they were slower and more plodding in pace, then Strafe is the game for you. So I officially give Strafe a 6.3 out of 10. I know 0.3, whatever, that's just the way the algorithm goes. You can read the full review on thatvideogameblog.com. I'll have the link in the description. If you liked our reviews, make sure you subscribe, like, hit us up. Let us know what you're doing. We're interested in you. We want to know what's going on.